Good morning, everyone. Live a little earlier than normal, but like they've said, as the day progresses, the weather is going to deteriorate here. The wind gust, nope, no rain here yet. Our rain's not supposed to be here until tomorrow. So it is already a little windy. The wind gusts are already starting to pick up. That's why I'm not going toward Tybee or anything, because then the whole time you guys will be like, you can't hear me. And I need a parachute clause, which means I need the opportunity to pull that parachute cord if need be to leave. So it is windy. Good morning. If you've never followed me before, welcome. My name is Corey. I'm a local to Savannah, Georgia. Lived here 38 of my 44 years of life. I go live 7 mornings a week, all on a quest of losing weight and getting healthy. I'm down over 95 pounds. I started bringing you guys live with me 7 months ago. Good morning. I was a teacher for 15 years. I left education in December 2020 at my most unhealthiest weight. And now we go on a journey one step at a time together. So we are in historic Savannah. What a difference 24 hours makes. It was 70, 80 degrees yesterday. Today, it's 50. It's quite chilly. Good morning, good morning. So if you've never hit that follow button, hit that follow button. We're not always in historic Savannah. We do go different locations within Savannah. Thought we would do something a little bit different today on this windy, ominous morning in Savannah. We did have a tropical storm form out in the ocean. Tropical storm Nicole, that will be a category 1 supposedly once it hits Florida and comes up. If you don't know how hurricanes break down, the right east quadrant or the right west quadrant, so if you're looking at it to the right, is always the area that gets the most wind, which we are on that side. Happy hump day. It is Thursday, or no, sorry, it's Wednesday. I do not suspect I will be live walking tomorrow morning based on the forecast. It is absolutely gorgeous this morning, but we're going to do some different little things this morning than our normal just walk. They are beautiful, aren't they? If you've never followed me before, hit that follow button. Yeah, we have 2 malls. Here's the deal. Tomorrow, though, if it is a tropical storm, I won't get out in it at all. It is 8:17, 8:20. I'm a little bit early than normal. Usually I go live 7 days a week from 8:30 to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Today is a little earlier than normal. But, oh, they've got that bazaar today starting at 10. That's kind of cool. I thought we would do something a little bit different. Yes, we're going to walk. But, yeah, I could do. Thought I would read to you guys a little of Surviving Savannah. which ironically mentions, it's a fictional book that mentions lots and lots of Savannah. So I thought I'd read some of this to you. If it's not your jam, that's totally your choice. You can head on out. But I thought I'd read some of this because it is an amazing book. Yeah. Yep, so I thought, what better place to read it than here in the areas it takes place. So we'll kind of read some and walk some and do all kind of things. It is an amazing book. I'm almost all the way through it, so I'm kind of excited about that. All right, so let's get started. I don't know if I'm just connecting with the characters or what it is, but man, I'm gonna tell you, I am jamming along with it. Story time. Yep, we're gonna read and walk together. So it says, present day. Well, let's see. Actually, I need to read the preface first for y'all. Yep. Present day. I was born in water. For all of my 32 years, my mom, Harriet Winthrop, had told the story over and over to anyone who listened. I could recite her words verbatim. I'd been told them since my memory began. A tale worth telling. She would say when I rolled my eyes as she launched into the story. There I was, my darling, only in the beginning of labor. I decided to take a long, warm bath before your daddy drove me to the hospital. Here Mom would laugh and shake her head, pat her hair in place. The pain was so mild, I thought for sure I had hours to go with you tucked warm inside me. No matter how many times my young face would cloud with doubt, Mom would continue in her sing-song voice. But I was wrong. As you came swimming out while your father hollered for your sister, only 2 years old, to call 911. And then, she always paused here, and I held my breath even though I knew what came next. And then your father caught you. Everyone who knew our family had suffered through this story, which had been embellished every time. There was the other part of the tale where Father had wanted to name me Selkle, but Mom would have none of this silliness. Her children were named after their ancestors. The story became part of my mythology, my born and bred Savannah family love. Good morning, everyone. The Winthrop family, we are very big on legends, lores, and stories. But it was my grandfather, Papa, to me, and my sister Alan, who told the best stories. He regaled us from the fantastical tales of the land beneath the water. There lived mermaids and the crangs, and they sailed the great pirates and the lowly fishermen who found talking fish that offered wishes. They reigned gods and goddesses who ruled the waters with a vengeance, smiting all humans who dared to believe they had more power than the sea itself. The tale of shipwrecks of vessels that lay at the bottom of the sea were the ones that inspired our young minds to dream of breathing underwater and finding treasures. At 6 and 8 years old, we loved stories as much as hot fudge sundaes we were allowed to have on Saturday nights. In the evenings, Mama cleaned the kitchen after dinner, and then we sat on the porch with cut grass tumbled filled with the clear liquids we weren't allowed to drink. Meanwhile, we joined Papa in the mahogany-paneled library. Each as blonde as the other, me with blue eyes and Alan with brown. We crossed our legs on the plush carpet and lifted up our chins to gaze up at him as he settled in the large leather chair and narrated his stories. Behind him, a limestone fireplace big enough for us both to crawl into gaped wide. And on cold nights, such as the one blazing in my memory, a fire roared and consumed the dry logs from a back garden oak that had been felled by lightning years before, much like these oaks right here. Yep, here we are. Above the fireplace hung an oil painting of lustrous steamships, with its sails spread wide and its wheels churning to water into whipped foam. The sky clear and bluster, the sea as human figures on the deck regarding the vast sea, the steamship Pulaski, which we're going to see more about Pulaski in a minute. 1838 started a small brass plate on this gilded frame. It's a book called Surviving Savannah. Shipwreck tales were Papa's favorites, in particular the shipwreck of Pulaski. Papa chose this legend again as we sat in our matching red fleece pajamas. We'd taken hot baths, scrubbed our skins to pink, and brushed our teeth. All prerequisites for the nighttime stories. He began reciting the words we'd almost memorized. You see, before she took all those lives, she was a beauty. Elegance, her specialty. She looked like a beautiful woman dressed in white robes. Yes, Papa said, everything was right with the world on a breezy summer night off the coast of North Carolina. And then everything changed. Everything, I said in a whisper. This was always when our hearts sped up, when everything changed. Everything, I said. The wooden steamship Pulaski, with her double-paddled wheels and twin masts, sat low in the water for her fourth voyage. She plowed through the restless waves of the Atlantic Ocean, and Papa held out his arms as if we were sailing. Her sleek bow point north. He dropped his chin, and he set a gaze across the fireplace. Her destination was Baltimore, where she had been built. Her passengers slept soundly, and they walked the deck with summer expectations ahead. First Mate Hilbert was in the wheelhouse overlooking the serene scene, his pride solid beneath his starched blue uniform. Papa settled back in his chair, lit his pipe slowly, knowing we were leaning into the story, just as we had every other time. It was late, 11 at night, and one woman remained on the promenade deck, strolling in the reclining setting from the wheelhouse. First Mate Hilbert smiled at the sight. The wind picked up and the clouds covered the sky. Peace reigned, and for that he was grateful. Yet, below, I said. Unseen, Alan said. Papa laughed and bent his head for us. Yet below, unseen in the belly of the fine steamboat, a boiler emptied and the second engine poured cold water into its copper belly. Boom! We squealed and grabbed his legs, laughing. It blew up, I said, caught on fire. When the engine poured water into the boiler, its hidden strength erupted in violence. Then what, I said. This is where the story really gets good. And this was the beginning of the tale. All right, so let's walk some more, and then I'll start reading some more. So this is a fiction book with lots of elements of Savannah. It's by Patty Callahan. It's called Surviving Savannah. It has been very well recommended. And as I started reading it, I was like, how fun this would be. And I get for some people this isn't their forte. That's fine. But how cool to read the events that happen and talk about the places that we walk each and every day. So if you've never followed me before, good morning. My name's Corey. I'm a local here in Savannah, Georgia. I go live 7 days a week. You never know what we're going to do, who we're going to see, what we're going to experience. We are looming a tropical storm, so hit that follow button. We are on our way to Monterey Square, which ironically stands a memorial in the burial of, you guessed it, Pulaski. What's up, Ashley? Yep, so we'll read a chapter, walk some. This is quite a big book. We won't get through all of it today, but I thought it may be kind of fun to start. Yep, it's a fantastic book. Let me read the back of it to you while we walk. A luxury steamboat sank in 1838 with Savannah's elite on board. Their fates were forgotten until the wreck was found 180 years later. And now their stories are finally being told. Nope, Kashmir, Pulaski. If you've ever been to Savannah and you drive down to Tybee Island, you're going to pass Fort Pulaski after Kashmir. They do talk about Jones Street which we'll read in a few minutes. So when Savannah's history professor, Everly Winthrop, is asked to curate a museum collection focusing on the newly discovered artifact salvaged from the steamship Pulaski, known as the Titanic of the South, she's hesitant. Still healing from the death of her best friend, she struggles to regain her sense of adventure. Her research leads her to the extraordinary stories of two aristocrat women and a family aboard the Pulaski. And so it's these ladies' stories that she ends up telling. But it's kind of cool because of all the places that are going to be mentioned. So we're walking over Jones Street, one of the most beautiful streets in all of America. So if you've never followed me before, hit that follow button. Because we're going to read some more coming up on this square right here. It is absolutely beautiful. Savannah consists of 22 squares, originally 24. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I upload our daily walks in their entirety each and every day. It is oddly quiet today. So here we come up on Monterey Square. That statue in the center is Pulaski, which we just heard about. This square is also known for Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil and the Mercer Williams home located right here. So let's go grab a seat, get cozy. It is 8:30. It is absolutely beautiful here. The bells begin at 8:30. The day has begun. Nothing better than reading amongst the big trees. Yep. Hello, hello. If you've never followed me before, hit that follow button. There's the Mercer Williams house. What better place to sit in front of and read as we continue our journey. All right. Let me set you guys back up. If you've never followed me before, hit that follow button. We do go live 7 days a week. It's always something different. All right. Get back to where we were. The secrets are lost to the waves. Only the sea knows, my child, and she will keep her secrets well. Present day. Let's see. Wait, is that the right page? Yes. Okay. I know this. We're made of stories, legends, and myths, just as we are made of water, atoms, and flesh. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. You can't pretend that everything that happened before you were born doesn't have something to do with who you are today. Thanks for the roses. Still, everything can change in an instant, a flash, a blink of an eye. A story can shift completely with the screech of a car tire, the flash of fire, or the words of someone you love. It can all happen, as Papa had once said, and then everything changed. And yet, the truth sometimes slipped from me, and I'd forgot for moments and moments at a time. The day Oliver asked for my help, I came to believe that a day was just something to get through without anxiety winning by hour. The tall floor-to-ceiling windows of my classroom allowed the midday sunlight to fall so brightly that it formed a spotlight to the dust mites, giving them a place to dance. The building, with its ancient bones, was one of my favorite in all of Savannah, which said a lot because there were buildings in the city I loved so much, I'd stand in front of a wrecking ball to protect them. The fact that I was able to teach history in this fortress was more than I'd hoped for during the long years of postgraduate work. But Here I was, Dr. Everly Winthrop, professor of history. This was the only school I applied to teach at, Savannah College of Art and Design. SCAD for those who loved her. The students gathered their backpacks and ever-dinging cell phones and began to filter out of the room, calling to one another, planning study groups, or a night on the town. They had long hair, dreadlocks, spiked hair, pink hair. They were full of life and vibrancy. I not only missed it myself, but thought long gone. From the corner of my vision, I saw a man leaning against the doorframe, as casual as if he were posing for a photo shoot. I took him for another student preparing some excuse why he'd missed this or that or the other. I'd heard it all. From the scarred wooden desk, I gathered the essays my student had dropped next to the art history textbook with the bright cover of Van Gogh. But the man remained, and I felt his presence as if he tapped me on the shoulder with his gaze. I turned with the full expectation of reminding him of my office hours. So this statue right here in the center is actually Pulaski, which this story is based off of the ship, the Pulaski. Yeah, tap that screen. My breath first told me it was Oliver, as it caught in my chest and didn't move. I'd known that one day I'd see him again. It was inevitable. But I imagine it's happening much later, long after I'd prepared myself with the correct words and penitent apology. But here he was. He hadn't changed much since I saw him over a year ago. His sly grin, his dark hair, wafting back as if he was a breeze, and eyes so brown they seemed made of earth. But like me, the unseen parts of his life had been completely altered. I knew. Hello, Oliver. I held the pile of paper-clipped essays in front of me, like a body armor. The overhead light of the hallway bounced off a neon-painted sign of a woman with a snake around her waist. How in the world did you get here? He took a step closer, but did not enter the room. He shrugged with a grin that usually got him what I wanted. I followed a student in. And what are you doing here? I came to see you. His voice was void of Savannah's ancient, the lit and sway of it. He was a California boy. He straightened into the doorframe and rolled back his shoulders. He stepped into the classroom. I wanted to talk to you. If I called or even texted, you'd ignore me and make some excuse. He grinned to soften the words we both knew were true. So you decided to trap me in my classroom? He sat at the desk as if he were a student eager to learn art history. Sat the papers on my desk. What's up? I need your help. How so? It's a mystery to unravel, an exhibit to build, a collection to curate. In other words, it's another consulting job at the museum. I moved toward him. You're still at the museum? Why wouldn't I be? He moved, and the chair rocked, uneven on the warped floor. I just thought that, I don't know, that I wouldn't be able to stay because of all the reminders. Yes, I said. Those words dissipated. In the silence between us came faint sounds of the Savannah bus. A siren blared, a woman laughed, a dog yapped. Finally, Oliver exhaled and rubbed his forehead. Listen, Everly, I miss Maura every single day, just like you. But I can't quit my job and run from it like I have. I didn't say that. You implied it, and it's true. I realize you miss her too, but she was my best friend. She was my fiancée. It's not the same. I forced myself to look directly at him. I wouldn't turn as I burrowed deep. I knew her since childhood. I don't remember ever not knowing her. She was part of my life. Even more so, my sister. What's up, everybody? He placed his palms on his knees. This is not a contest for grief, Everly. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you here? I'm here about work, and trust me, if I thought I could find someone else, I would. Well, thanks for that. Nice way to ask. Please sit. I don't know why I keep saying the wrong things with you. What I meant to say was, I might have caused you some discomfort, and you'll probably say no, but you're the only one who can properly do this job.
Anyway,
I didn't sit, but I didn't walk away either. I nodded for him to continue. We're doing a major exhibit of the steamship Pulaski. The Pulaski? Why now? Because, Everly, they just found her. What? 30 miles off the coast of North Carolina. 100 feet deep, they found her. And it's her for sure. For sure, I have proof if you want to see. Let me see. So remember, this is the story, this is the ship that her grandfather told her for many, many years. They've now found this ship. I shook my head. I know you very well, Mr. Oliver Sanford. You deliberately didn't bring photos so you couldn't lure me to the museum. You know if I show up there, I'll say yes. Maybe. What kind of proof? He paused. A candlestick with the name of the ship engraved on the bottom. There's gold and silver and jewelry. Do I know how to tempt you or what? An elevator in the middle of my body dropped. I turned away. Everly, you know what I meant. Listen, this is a story worth telling. It's the sudden disaster, the ripping of time into before and after. He couldn't have been talking about us, about life. I have one class left until summer break, and I was planning on taking a bit of a recess. The anchor, had they found that, or the bell? Not yet. They will. No more excuses from you. Okay, here it is. This is not a good idea. Us working together is not a good idea. No one else has the expertise or the skills that you do. Oliver, there are others that can do this, I'm sure. Do you need me to tick off the reasons why it should be you? Maybe you can finally solve the mystery of what happened to Lily Forsythe. She's a myth. She's a story we all liked to whisper about when we were little kids and believed in ghosts. Sound familiar, you guys? I mean, very much Savannah. I shook my hands and made an O to form in my mouth. She was quite real, Oliver whispered. Maybe she survived the shipwreck, but not the aftermath. It could be as simple as that. Why does it matter? It always matters. The request from Oliver should have sounded exciting, and that was the problem. I knew what things should feel like, yet they merely felt dull, like the dentist poking at my lip. It wasn't that I couldn't feel anymore. It was that I feel only a small range of emotions, when before I had all the world's sensations at my fingertips. Do you want to do this? Do you want to unravel a mystery and find out what happened that night? Yes, but I don't think it's a good idea. Not at all. In my imagination, she didn't answer, and that was part of the problem. I'd stopped hearing. All right, so that's another end of a chapter. So let's talk about the square before we continue on. So the premise of the book, if you're just coming in, is called Surviving Savannah. So this teacher, professor of SCAD, Everly Winthrop, used to hear stories from her grandpa about a steamship named the Pulaski, who sunk, much like the Titanic. It was called the Titanic of the South. And she heard these stories growing up. Well, now, fast forward years and years later, and they have come to her because they have found it, sunk off the coast of North Carolina. And it's going to open up all of these stories unloaded in events that happened in Savannah. Now, it is fiction. It is not a true story. It is very much a fiction story. But while we're here, let's talk about some true stories before we continue on. So this is the Mercer Williams house, based off the Midnight at Garden Good and Evil. Many of the stories you hear are indeed very true. Like the time he hung the Nazi flag so camera crews wouldn't film his home, forgetting that there was a Jewish synagogue right behind me. Or the time that he would hand out cards, Mr. Williams, he would hand out cards to people. There's truth about that. There's a gray line of truth and fiction, and it kind of goes into it in the book. So there's true stories about how Mr. Williams would host these elaborate parties in this house, and he'd have cards that say in or out, and based on if he liked you that day, you'd either get an in or an out ticket. We're moving all over the place as we read different areas of this book I've got. We will not finish it today. Catching up on some questions. So yeah, we're moving all over the place. right, let's keep going. So yes, so there's always some truth and some stretch of the imagination when it comes to the stories of Savannah. So good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's keep moving. Say goodbye to Monterey Square for the day. It is stunningly beautiful. It's very quiet today. If you have never followed me, hit that follow button. It's definitely much chillier than it has been. It's in the 50s, where it's been running in the 70s and 80s each morning. So it has definitely declined weather-wise and will do so. See if Mr. Kessler is home. Good morning, good morning. Here's the book. Surviving Savannah. But it's kind of fun. Oh, the light's on, y'all. Ooh, the lights are on. Denise, thank you so much for that donation. Huh. Mr. Kessler must be home today because his lights are on. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Lisa, it is actually, we're reading bits of it on our walk this morning. Oh, look. Y'all, look at the chandelier. Can you see it on? Hello, Mr. Kessler. How pretty. Ugh. I know, I'm just going to sit on the steps, Trey. You gonna come bail me out? When they're like, yo. Yeah, the lights are on today. One day, y'all. One day. It's called Surviving Savannah. Thanks, Trey. Appreciate it. Let's go see if we can see. Yeah, there's lots of lights on in the house today. Lots and lots of lights. Yeah, it's chilly. Well, I mean, he's older, in his 70s. It's never seen him, though. Let's see. Oh, yeah, lots of lights on. He's definitely home. I hope the statues don't get blown over like they did last time. Be sure to tap that screen. You can definitely hear the wind starting up. And nobody ever mentions her. Not a lot of pictures of her or anything like that. You can tour the bottom floor of the Mercer home, yes. See the lights on? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lights on at his home today. More so than normal. He is the hotel businessman. Owns most of the hotels here in Savannah. He's a gazillionaire. Does she? I know, right? He's getting ready. He's getting ready for the party. It is a quiet, quiet morning though. Look at that. How pretty. If you've never followed me, hit that follow button. It's getting ready for the storm. It's an odd season. I will say that. Good morning, good morning. Next week's going to be even chillier. Yep. Oh yes, poached. Okay. Let's read some more, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be chilly. Good morning, good morning. So if we have not met, my name's Corey. I'm a local to Savannah. This is not a square, this is Forsyth Park. I have lived here for 38 of my 44 years of life. I take you guys live 7 days a week. We go on morning walks. I'm down over 95 pounds, which is an adventure. And I bring you guys with me. So if you've never followed me before, hit that follow button. Today we're doing something different because we have a tropical storm brewing. And so one of the things is we're kind of going walking a little. And then I'm reading excerpts from this book called Surviving Savannah. So if you've never followed me before, hit the follow button. Come along for the adventure. You never know where we might be, what we might do. It's going to be a kind of more chilled morning. All right, let me set you guys down. Make sure you got a good view of the fountain. See what chapter I want to read, because I'm not going to read the whole thing all the way through. Good morning. It is in the 50s right now. It is rather chilly. This will be fun to read, this little area. Let's see. Alright, so fast forwarding. She does decide, she contemplates, should she take this job, essentially. Should she do it? From my bedroom nestled in the high left corner of my home, 2 crows outside my window woke me, as they did each morning. I mean, how many times have we been on a walk and heard the birds? Soon others would join. I lay still, listening to them walk slowly. After more had been their friend. Passed, Mom had offered to let me stay at the family home. Get back on my feet under familiar territory, but I loved my rented 1-bedroom home that sat on the corner historic district behind ivy-covered walls and ancient mortar. I adored the bright blue front door that I painted myself and was hidden in the alleyway. I shared the back courtyard with 6 other people. I stretched and looked out the window to my left of my bed, which was the reason I rented the place. Tall and wide, it revealed a striking view of the Basilica of St. John's, or St. John's the Baptist, double steeple in the wide sky over my beloved city. When I first moved in, the window had been painted shut, but after hours chiseling away, razor blades and screwdrivers our tools, we pried it open and sat on the flat roof to gaze out. "You think we'll ever leave?" she asked, as she turned blood red with sunset. As the sky turned blood red with sunset? I don't know. I hope not. Or I hope so. I can't decide. I get it, she said. Our roots dug as deep as the old trees. Both of us could tell you what anything in the city was before and what it was today. We both attended Country Day. So Country Day is a private school here in Savannah. So like when I said there's a lot of truth to her stories and there's some fiction. So, I mean, it's kind of cool when you merge the two together with this book. And Sweetbriar College. Our families were charter members of the Oglethorpe Club, which the Oglethorpe Club we've talked about right there was a Who's Who's Club right over there. So that tells us that her family was of money. And our mothers were colonial dame. Our fathers and grandfathers had belonged to the St. Andrew's Society. We each had families buried in Bonaventure Cemetery. And now more was there far ahead of most of us. Very few of my childhood memories didn't include Maura, with her ginger hair springing freckles. With her memory vivid this morning, after Oliver had visited me in the classroom, I slipped from bed and opened the window, stared out the brightening sky. The world slowly came to life. First the birds calling, and then the trees, bushes and bricks, walls of gardens took shape, emerging from the dusky dawn. A shipwreck found. An exhibit to curate, with the freedom to handle the job as I please. History to uncover. There were the sirens call. I realize now I would have to answer even if I pretended I might not. As if there were another choice. I'd made it somewhere deep down the minute Oliver had asked. Because the only thing better than avoiding my own life in the present moment was completely involving myself in the lives that had come before me. Cool. My backpack slapped against my shoulder blades as I took a left on Charlton Street and passed its century-old homes. I knew the history of many of the families who lived in them. Tourists might hear brief remnants of the tales, but they never knew the full truth. That sounds familiar. Whose sons had been lost to drugs and alcohol, whose fortunes had dissolved into gambling losses, whose husbands had philandered their way to divorce and financial ruins. Then there were the beautiful stories, the families that gave their wealth to help the helpless and never asked for recognition, the great love that led to the great work of arts, renowned parties where lifelong friends met for the first times, stories at every turn. In 2 blocks, I reached Bull Street and took a left, passing Monterey Square and heading toward Forsyth Park. In the summer morning, Savannah's historic district stood proud, as if daring any city to look better than she did. Passing students from SCAD and camera-toting photographers, weaving among business people and shopkeepers, I made my way to the park that had once been surrounded by iron fences to keep the cows inside. In Forsyth Park, petals fell from the tulip polars like pink confetti, and the grass had vibrant green. Dandelions persisted stubbornly, despite bikes and countless feet running over them, and the magnolia trees with the creamy blooms as big as dinner plates could later leave unopened pods on the ground, where they would burst with red seeds that stained the concrete, which all of this is so accurate of spring in Savannah. I was lost in the beauty of the park, 30 acres, and thinking of the days when this was a promenade where 19th century women of certain class took their exercise. I was smiling at the image of their big skirt gowns and elaborate bonnets with a motorcycle gun and engine at the green light, jingling my every nerve. I froze and then ran a few yards into the park before bending over to catch my breath beside the 150-year-old fountain that had dyed green that St. Patrick's Day more than a year ago. And that jarring memory arrived. Beautiful venues in Savannah. Well, I mean, a lot of people choose parks. There are a ton of different places. A lot of people get married here at Forsyth Park. A lot of people get married all over the place. So yeah, it just, I mean, you have so many locations. You have the railroad, you have all the squares. You can rent the squares, which a lot of people do due to price effectiveness. So yeah, it just depends on what your budget is, what you are looking for. There's gardens, there's just a ton of places. Oops, sorry, I got a little rocky. All right, let's keep going. Because she's moved her way to Forsyth Park, which is a lot of fun now. Good morning, good morning. Oh, how fun. Yeah, so here's the thing first I'd recommend. Depending on your timeline, some places book up years in advance. So if you already have a date and it's within the next year, you're going to limit yourself very quickly. And then within that, you're talking budget. Savannah is a high salt location for weddings. Look at the leaves. So there's a little bit of changing of colors. Again, good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are well. I'm doing something a little different this morning. Yeah, Trey. It's breezy. It's a little chilly. Good morning, everyone. No, Spanish moss does not. That's not Spanish moss. That is like pine straw, things like that. Yeah, Trey, you are right about that. Morning, how are you? Yes, Blanche wants to get out. Here's the mansion at Forsyth and 700 Drayton. It's always funny to me. We are creatures of entertainment, right? Like, I started off my live this morning with like 200 plus people in here. And then I started reading and people are like, nope, I don't want to listen to somebody read. Like somebody even in the chat said, no. It kind of made me chuckle. Good morning. People are all about being entertained all the time. Speaking of, thank you. I'm going to pause this for just a minute because my daughter is calling. I'll be right back. Time out.